So to start off with, just sitting comfortably in your chair, and if you're able to get into the sort of correct official posture, that's fine, but it might take you a few moments to get back into that, and always go nice and gently and easy, especially at the start. We're just trying to ease our way into the session. So rubbing your hands together first of all. So this is a tapping exercise. Tapping over your face. And then over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. And your arm. And then on the other side. Onto the upper part of the chest. Down to your belly. Sit back on and tension on your legs. So just coming back to the simple sitting, we want a posture that feels supported. And obviously the chair is a significant part of that in the seated exercises. You can sit back and have the lower part of your back perhaps at the back of the chair. It depends on the chair, but most chairs will slope back a little bit, or you might want to cushion behind you. What we're looking for, as always, is to come a little bit forwards. We want to do this without straining in our backs. I'm quite forward on the chair now, and I'm going to just tilt forwards a little bit, so about a third of my weight is in my feet. So try this for as long as it's comfortable, but don't push it beyond a point where you feel as though you're having to strain in your back. The whole point is to find a posture where your body is supported, ideally supporting itself, of course, without the need for tightening, gripping in soft tissue of the body, so that we gradually develop a muscle tone that's active, supple, but not stiff and hard. And that may require ongoing conditioning. And it can vary. I mean, from one day to the next, we find ourselves feeling slightly different, and there's all sorts of factors that are involved in that. Take a couple of slow, gentle breaths, and just trying to find this posture where the weight of your body goes down into that space defined by your feet and your hips as much as possible. Let your shoulders drop, feel your hips sinking into the chair, and that little bit of weight in your feet, causing your feet to be gently pressed into the floor. So supported by the chair, supported by your hips, feet, your legs, and increasingly a sense of being supported by the skeleton, so that there's less need for that tightness and stiffness, although you'll find it will keep coming back. So when we start to move, these are qualities that we want to try and preserve and to develop. So this, how we move is important. Trying not to strain in the movement. Just starting off very simply, turning your head just as far as you're able to move, again, without having to strain, even if that's a very small distance. So we start to get this sense of a flow, a movement through the body. And some of that movement will be muscles, tendons, ligaments expanding and contracting, joints moving, rotating, and so on. Hands in front of your shoulders, pushing your elbows forwards and over. Other movements will be things like breathing, circulation. These are things that, generally speaking, just happen. We don't need to sort of focus on those particularly, although we may choose to focus on our breathing at times. But also a sense of movement through the whole of your body, something that connects. So for instance here, as you roll your shoulders back, feeling what's happening in your chest, your upper back, sides, change direction. And then hands down by sides, just out a little bit from your arms, rotating your arms. So we want to become increasingly familiar with this connecting principle, the flow, the energy that isn't specific to one part or one function of our bodies. This enables a sort of overview, if you like, of the body, a sense of our body as one whole unit rather than disparate parts. Winding around. And we start to go beyond awareness. We find that movements in the body of one kind or another, particularly the smaller, more subtle movements, can be influenced by our mind. So we bring a sense of intentionality to the whole practice. Going back the other way. Let's try that. Now bringing your attention to the middle part of your body, your pelvis and hips, and up towards your waist, and just tilt your pelvis forwards a little bit more, feeling more weight going into your feet. Before that gets too much of a strain, or before you go too far forwards, just push down. One of the things you might notice here is that as you go forwards, it's the feeling of your legs being compressed, like a set of springs, which then just quite naturally expand. That movement is complemented by a similar kind of dynamic in the hips and lower back. As you go back, there's this slight gentle sense of compression in your hips and your spine, which then again, like a set of springs, push back. If we build on those, we find that we're less likely to, for instance, strain to come upright. We start to come up without stiffening our shoulders, our chest, our back. It almost feels as though your head is floating up a little bit. So we begin to, again, preserve and cultivate that space within the body, and within that space, becoming a bit more aware of the imagery that we can bring through our awareness. Can be influential here. If you imagine that you're doing this in water, as you go forward, there's been a sense of pressure against the front of your body, upper body, that is, and as you go back, more against your back. And maybe finding that feeling shifts in your body, that as you push down with your feet, it's almost like it pushes that feeling into your back and so on. So we begin to get a different perspective on how we're moving. We may find ourselves, particularly when we start off doing this, straining in our shoulders or our chests, pushing ourselves forwards, pushing back. But the more we can recognise what's happening, things like our feet and our legs, our hips and our lower back. Focusing more on what's happening within the body, within the upper body. Then there's less and less need for that tightening up. And once again, this allows for that flow. And that sense of the flow, a sense of the harmony, however you think of it, however you experience it, whatever label you put on it, will be one of the primary aims in Chinese medicine, to restore these qualities of harmony and flow to our bodies, and to our bodies and minds, really. So when we move from the centre, this becomes a very distinct possibility. Now, sitting back, turn just a little bit so you're facing toward one leg. You might find this easier because really you're focusing your attention all on one leg as you go forwards. But we gradually learn to sort of expand that area of our awareness to include our whole body and the environment that we're in. In the other direction. That too can be variable. You know, if for some reason or another you're a bit tired today, you're less likely to get that sense of an expanding awareness than if, say, you're feeling quite lively. On the other hand, if you're feeling quite lively, it can be quite difficult to get that sense of settling. So you know, these practices are there to encourage this gathered quality, this quiet quality in mind and body. So going forwards and turning, so you bring your weight across to the other side and then back into your hips and then around. Very much moving from our centres. And then back the other way. And one thing you can do it in either direction, but is just gradually make the circle smaller so it becomes a spiral. So we sort of arrive at a central point. And I've already described, trying to have a third of your weight forwards, but it might not be that. A lot depends on what's going on in your body and mind at this particular moment. But a sense of equilibrium where we don't have a sense that we're being pulled forwards unduly or backwards or sideways, but rather that everything is kind of flowing, almost funneling down into to the ground. Just coming to that point and letting it help us to get a sense of settling in mind and body. And this feeling of settling, quietening, centering, rooting, because you want your centre of gravity to drop, whatever label you put on it, is something that we want to remain sort of at the heart of the movement. So from here, just raising one foot, step out, put the heel down, lower the ball of your foot, press in gently. This is called planting the foot. So we want to measure the steps so we're able to just apply that little bit of pressure downwards very gently. And having done that, we can then tilt forwards. I sometimes describe this as though we're walking on thin ice. So what you want to do is sort of test the ice and then forwards. And trying to be clear about this so that we're bringing a bit of really clear attention to our feet and our legs and the movement of our weight. Try that with your other foot. First of all, without moving the weight. And then with the weight following. And then alternating from side to side, bring that foot in, plant it down, move across a little bit, feel your body turning on the other side. Take your time. And the technique is important, but so is the awareness that goes with it. There's a change in perspective taking place, a shift in our perspective, which is so often very much focused on the upper part of our body, particularly our arms and our hands. We're given a bit of time to the lower part of the body, hips, legs, feet, and to that very dynamic quality that comes with the movement of the weight. Okay, so coming back to the standard posture, your arms drop down, turn them palm forwards again. We did this earlier, but now combining it with the movement of the weight. So now, just trying to develop a picture in our minds of the whole body moving as one unit, weight moving, tilting of our pelvis, affecting our shoulders and then our arms. That internal movement, that flow from one point of the body to another. Taking our attention with it, and through that able to bring a little bit of intention to the movement. This is not random movement. We're not in a trance or whatever. So we can bring in different images. The exercise is called Bird Folds Its Wings because of the effect this has on the big muscles of the chest, like the flight muscles of a bird. But we might also use a very common image in Tai Chi, which is that we're moving through water. Whatever image we use, try not to get caught up in it. The images are there to help us develop the movements. And so if an image doesn't work for you, don't labour after it. It may come to mean something later. And by the same token, if a movement is particularly attractive to you, try not to let it sort of take you away from the movement. And then leaving your hands facing backwards, sitting back, letting your arms just follow and swing through, and then going forwards, and again, your arms following. On the side, if you see my arm is just swinging from my shoulder like a pendulum would swing. And it just curves up slightly, but not a long way up. There's a soft massaging quality of movement in the shoulder as a consequence. And it's almost like a wave that starts in your hips, flows up through your upper body, sending it forwards, drawing your arms after, sinking down into your feet, and then the wave coming up from your feet, pushing you back. Again, this sense of a flowing movement, a flowing energy within your body. The more your arms move, the further, the higher they get, the more likely you are to begin to strain. And there's two things to bear in mind there. One is we're not wanting to strain, so you might want to just moderate your movement a little bit. But as you get more used to these movements, we can sometimes find that we can get to a certain point, we can feel maybe here, I can feel my back beginning to tighten. I can just allow that tension to dissipate. So I can sometimes get a little bit more movement. but it's never forced, and it comes from within. So fisherman cast a net. Try not to stiffen in your elbows or your wrists or your fingers. This time leaving your arms out in front, and as you come back, they get drawn up. So there's a ball underneath them just rising up, pushing your arms up, and you roll the ball in towards your chest. Forwards, feeling the push up from your feet, expanding upwards through your belly, solar plexus, your chest, maybe feeling that rising expansion functions to just push your arms up a little bit further. Never straining in your arms or your shoulders. One of the ways that we reduce that strain is by noticing how a movement like this engages the whole body. Our feet are involved, our legs are involved, our hips are involved. When we go forward, there's a gentle extension through back and spine, which then contracts, so that's involved as well. So the effort is spread through much more of the body. So roll in the ball. This time, turning your hands palm in, and that same rising movement, pushing your elbows out, drawing your hands apart, and then draining away, gently pressing your arms in. It's called pigeon spreads its wings, feeling that very dramatic massaging quality, chest and upper back. Again, nice steady rhythm. Maybe finding that your breathing has a tendency to just harmonize with that rhythm. The saying in Tai Chi is that when one part of your body is in motion, the whole body is in motion. The whole body is one way or another a part of this, and we could say body and mind as well. And so this sense of a gathered attention is a little bit beyond just a matter of the mind quietening, but this sense of ourselves as one whole unit. It's something that I think makes a significant contribution to our sense of ourselves, a sense of our well-being. Pigeon spreads its wings. This time your elbows still go out, but you're bringing your hands in more in front of your hips. Turn them, palm forwards, let the heel of your palm drop down, and then going forwards, drawing your elbows in to a movement called pushing wave with a stronger quality than the previous movement. Perhaps a slightly more focused intention, this sense of pushing against something. Be careful not to overextend. So at the end of the movement, my hands are really above my feet. Maybe a little bit beyond, but what I don't want to do is have my arms out there. I can feel myself stiffening up when I'm doing that. It's your weight behind the push. So this points us at a slightly stronger quality within the movement, both physically and energetically. A quality often referred to as inner strength, but I sometimes use the term resilience, as you know. Strength, I think, sometimes conjure the wrong kind of image. So a nice steady flow, a nice steady rhythm. One more time, going straight forwards. I'm going to combine this with the stepping, so take your time. Raise one foot, step out, plant the foot, and then push in. And with the foot more extended, you may find that you get a slightly bigger movement. So one of the ways that we would extend our range of movement is, as I mentioned before, through that feeling of releasing tightness, simply allowing the body to extend more without restriction. But also very important is what's happening in our feet, the foundation of the movement. It's like a house. If you want to extend your house, you start by extending the foundation. So again, emphasizing the significance of feet, legs, of our stance, it's sometimes referred to. This is a very sensible way to move. Now, come back, elbows just in front of your hips, roll your fingers into a hollow fist. Go forwards, rotating your arms, and then drawing back. I mentioned that sort of springiness in our legs. There's a similar kind of feeling again when we go back, particularly lower part of the back, but really through the whole of the back and spine. And we can also think of the arms as a spring. It's like the spring's being pushed in, being compressed, and then as we release through our hips and through our back, so do the arms release. It's another image that we might want to use to help us to really feel this sense of our whole body as one unit. So we sink into the hips. As the hips start to expand, there's a downward movement. So our legs into our feet, an extension through our back, extending into our arms. Again, to quote the old writers in Tai Chi, one simple line says, walk like a cat. You know how when cats kind of spread themselves out, they do it right through their whole body. And then coming forwards, open your fingers, coming back, winding down. So this flowing movement is very much dependent on good posture and really a quieter attention, a more gathered mind. If we're feeling terribly agitated, the movements might be a bit less flowing. But this is not a one-way street. You might find that if you've had a busy morning, that you're a bit buzzy in your head, but that the flow of the movement starts to sort of ease that buzziness. Starts to just almost, it has an almost massaging, calming quality to it. So we have these three elements, these three treasures of our bodies, of course, the awareness and the intention that we bring to the movement, our minds, and the movement, the flow, the energy, just beginning to interact with each other. It's time. Turning your hands palm down, turning, easing forward, so that movement that we did earlier now, extending to our arms, coming across the back. It's called polishing the tape. Turn, ease forward, that extension through back, spine, through arms and fingers, and then contracting. Remember, when we come back to the upright position, our hips drop back. It's like somebody sitting behind your chair, grabbing hold of your belt, pulling you back into the chair so you come up nice and easily, nice and smoothly. And this moving with the whole body, moving with body, mind and energy, becomes something we aspire to, something that we have an intention. Now, bringing your hands in, turn them palm up. Imagine the ball just cradled in your arms. With that same intention of moving through your whole body, with the expansion, pushing the ball up, turn your hands over and contracting, pushing down. So you're pushing the ball down. So, a little bit trickier now with these forthcoming vertical movements, because particularly between hips and feet, we haven't got the same obvious movement of our weight, and yet they're still being used. It's like there's a sense of compression here in the centre of your body, like a balloon, you're pushing on a balloon, which then expands, and that pushes your feet down, pushes your hips down, and expands upwards through your upper body. Compression again. These are very subtle movements within the body that get expressed externally. And then turning your fingers out, and this time that expansion, pushing your arms away from your body so they swing up, and then contracting downwards. This is the wild goose. With this image of the bird in flight once again. Hanging forwards this time, just a little bit, to let your hands swing in front of your knees, sit back into your hips, pushing up, elbows once again, drawing your arms out, this time into a circle. So you're just painting a double circle on the wall, just parting the clouds, expanding but not stretching. As my elbows are still bent. Never going so far as to tighten your body up, to lose that sense of space for movement within the body. Maintain the flow of energy. Letting your hands drop down, feeling the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders, pulling your shoulders down, your hips sinking into the chair. And then with the next expansion, on one side, elbow first, and then your fingers reaching up a little bit, winding around, so you're plucking something off the tree, drawing down, contracting through that side of your body, the weight of your arm, and then hip sinking into the chair, and then the same movement on the other side. This dragon plucks the stars from the sky, and then down. Try not to rush. And one of the things that helps us with that gentle slowing down is the awareness of details. There's more going on in these movements than we can actually see. You can see my arm going up, coming down. You can't necessarily see at this point my hips sinking more into the chair. And then again you can see my arm. So the details of the postures, the details of the movements, not only enable that movement, particularly that inner flow, but an awareness of them really contributes to this sense of our gathering, our quietening of our attention. Now bring your hands around, and with the next expansion, pushing your arms up, this time rotating your arms, and as though you're just pressing your hands against the low ceiling. Coming down, rotating your arms again, letting the edge of your arm just rest against the centre of your body, and then with the next expansion, pushing out sideways. It's pushing in two directions. That more gathered attention also seems to carry with it a sense of space from the sort of, can sometimes feel like the endless chatter of our thoughts. It's things that are on our minds, as we say, gradually taking a back seat for the moment. And this time, pushing out, and as you do turn, noticing how that redirects your arms, turn coming from your hips, your waist, and then coming back, turning the other way, and back. And then facing forwards and pushing out. So this is pushing in four directions. Pushing up, expanding, contracting, expanding and turning, turning the other way. Facing forwards. And as you extend your arms this time, extend one foot. The knee stays bent, it's just the heel on the ground there. Turning your hands so the palms face up, knees forward, so you're scooping water up in your arms. Feel yourself being pulled back in the chair, that rise and expansion in the front of your body. So you're throwing the water back over your head. This is scooping the sea and looking at the sky. Once again, really paying attention to how we come to this upright, open stance. It's one of the most significant things in the Tai Chi posture, that we're able to develop, to cultivate and maintain an upright posture without straining, without getting into a fight with the pull of gravity. And then Again, your hands loosely fist, a hollow fist, easing forwards, just letting your arms swing over, just grasping the tiger's ears. And then again, changing sides, a plant, foot down, extend the other foot, starting with scooping the seat. Be very careful of your back here, don't go too far. It's good to extend our range of movement, but it needs to be done carefully and gently, not in a hurry. And remember that a key feature of this isn't just that extension outwards, but how we come back up, finding a way coming back up that doesn't cause us to stiffen, to strain. This is something that we try and put into practice in the standing movements as well. And then rolling your fingers into a hollow fist, grasping the tiger's ears, a lovely sense of expansion upwards from the pelvis through your back and your spine, going into the chest, which helps to bring your arms around as it contracts, grasping the tiger's ears. Bringing it up back. Once again, let's do the tapping in preparation to stand. So rubbing your hands together and then once again starting on your face. So just getting ourselves awake over your head and neck, encouraging blood to flow a little bit more freely in preparation to stand up. Shoulder and your arm. So it's a fast but light movement. On the other side. And the upper part of your chest. And then down to your belly. And then, importantly, your legs, you want to get the feeling, the circulation back into your legs before you try and use them. So this transition from sit to stand that we're about to do can be quite a key movement, and it's good to prepare for it if you can. For the same reason, just pushing your heels up, so your knees come up. A sort of pumping feeling in your legs. Followed by a circling movement, which maybe you can feel back into your hips. And back the other way. Okay, so now come into standing. Again, we want to really pay attention to our posture, our structure, both to maintain that gathered attention, but also, of course, because good posture is important. And going back to something that I mentioned earlier when we were doing scooping the sea, I mentioned it a couple of times in fact. You want to stand with your feet hip width apart so your hips feel supported, and we quite often find ourselves leaning over, and a key part of the body here is going to be the hips and pelvis. If your pelvis is level, you're more likely to be upright. So if we do find ourselves leaning over, the temptation is to sort of really strain in our shoulders, to pull ourselves up and to tighten up. And then eventually that just runs out. But if we can just let gravity pull our hips down, notice how when I do that again, I start to get a sense of my head coming up nice and easily till my shoulders are in line with my hips. And I'm once again able to feel this sense of my body being supported by its legs, by my back supporting the front of the body, and by my skeleton supporting me from within. And again, this is a significant perspective that we develop in Tai Chi. So now just letting your hips drop down and pushing up. I mentioned the springiness of the legs, the way that we used the legs earlier. Here it's much clearer, I think. So not quite as subtle as the chair-based practices, but the same idea. You allow your centre of gravity to drop, rooting down, and then you feel the push-up that results from that. Three things about rooting down. First, the actual physicality of it, your centre of gravity dropping is really important. The lower your centre of gravity, the more stable you are, which is obviously a really key factor. Second is, as you drop down, your attention is going down. So we have this sense of being very grounded in our minds. The third thing is this cycle, the act of allowing gravity to pull us down, loads the legs and produces the upward movement. So rooting down is a really key element here. And once again, bringing your hands around into the exercise, rooting down, the expansion, pushing your elbows out, bring the movement right up into your upper body and then draining away. So one of the key principles in Tai Chi, for several reasons, is this one of the root. It's characteristic of all Tai Chi and Qigong. And smooth, flowing, massaging quality of movement. Now, turning your hands out and standing version of the wild goose. Feeling the connection from feet to hips, hips to shoulders, your arms being pushed out and swinging up gently. And then letting your hands drop down, crossing in front of your belly, and parting the clouds. One more round. So by rooting down, we sort of access the source of energy in the same way that you might bounce a ball or drop down into water and feel the water pushing you up. Now changing the stance, turn one foot out, step forwards but keep the width of the step, and just settle back into your back foot until you feel the push up, and then let it push you forwards. And the same thing, settling down and the movement backwards. So we begin to, I suppose you could say, we begin to translate that energy into this forwards and backwards weight transfer, which we would develop into the step-in. Weight transfer is a vital part of movement. So this is an important exercise. It will help to condition your legs. So if you have problems, say, with your knees or your hips, it's a very good exercise. Just don't overdo it. but it also begins to translate some of these ideas, some of these principles that we work with, to a very practical movement. Going into your back foot, you raise your toes so you settle back a little bit more. Have the front foot slightly turned out if you like. In the front foot, you push your back knee in, and each time you raise your toes or your heel, in this way, your body shifts a little bit and you end up finding that quality of alignment, finding that sense of rooting downwards through one leg. And this in its turn enables the step. You bring your foot in, you step back, put the ball of the foot, lower the heel, plant the foot, move the weight back. Same thing here, except that when you step forward, it's your heel goes down, then the ball of the foot, then the planting. You don't have to keep your foot up in the air when you bring it in. You can just let the toes settle down. That can be a really good opportunity to once again just check your posture. Good, and shake out. And then with the other foot forwards, same thing. First of all, what we call fixed step, transferring the weight. You won't get all your weight over one leg at this point. Then raising your toes and your heel. Taking a few steps forwards and backwards. Planting the foot. Always giving yourself that moment to settle, to let your centre of gravity drop. Appreciating how that really does help your stability. So this becomes a very important ongoing intention. And then, depending on where you've got space, either forwards or backwards, take a few steps through. Change direction if you haven't done so already. It's a very simple, everyday action, but bringing an awareness, an intention to this in a way that perhaps we don't always. So now have your right foot forward, so mirror my movements, excuse me. Weight moving forwards and backwards. Push your weight into the front foot, turn, and as you settle in, let that movement just expand outwards, push your arms away from the body. Coming back, letting your arms drop down, sink into the back foot and turn, body expanding and then contracting as you go forwards. This is called Wind Blows the Willows. Smoothly, giving yourself time to make that connection down into the ground. Nice and easy and steady. Moving your weight, turning in your centre. Feeling that pattern of expansion and contraction in the upper part of your body. So now, try that with your other foot forwards. So your left foot forwards, weight going forwards. You settle into the foot and turn. Wind blows the pillows. And then combining this with the step in. So again, you either go forwards or backwards. I'm going to have to go forwards, of course. Back knee pushes in, the foot comes in. This is called dragonfly skims the water. Make sure you find that root and that alignment. What you may find you're able to do, and don't push this too hard, is you bring the foot in and just raise up. Hips dropping back. I'm going to change direction. Take your time moving your weight into your supporting leg, bring the foot in, and only then really do you decide whether it's appropriate to bring your foot up. Not stiffening up in your upper body because you've got the alignment and the root continues to support you without having to stiffen, without having to strain. And then just bringing your feet back. Lovely. So now go back to your chairs. And making yourself comfortable again in the chair, or for our usual closing exercise, letting your hands drop down, hips sink into the chair, feeling that rising movement, pushing your arms out. Now bring them around as though you're going to hold a ball, drawing in, and then letting everything just once again settle inwards and downwards. This is embrace tiger, return to the mountain, and then letting your arms settle and starting again. And just noticing in particular that final stage where we do settle mind, body, energy, just quietening that more gathered, spacious quality. And noticing what works for you in terms of coming back to that quality. One more time. And once again, just sitting. Thank you very much as always. It's always the time goes so quickly, doesn't it? But please do get in touch with any comments or any questions. Bye for now.